I'm Vinny Politan. We begin this hour of closing arguments with some big breaking news out of Idaho involving the death penalty and the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students. Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter is in Idaho tonight with all the details. Go ahead, Chanley.
Great to be with you, Vinny. Literally, my first stop here in Idaho is to be on with you at the Latah County Courthouse, where prosecutors just today filed their notice to seek the death penalty against the accused mass murderer of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. This is big news. It was to be expected. It's not surprising given what he is accused of doing, but now it is official. Here's a look at the document that was filed. It says in part that the state gives this notice based on the fact that it has not identified or been provided with any mitigating circumstances sufficient to prohibit the triers of fact from considering all penalties authorized by the Idaho legislature, including the possibility of capital sentence. Consequently, considering all evidence currently known to the state is compelled to file this notice of intent to seek the death penalty. And it goes on to say that at this time, based on the information known to prosecutors, they find several aggravating circumstances surrounding this mass murder, including that it was especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel, that the defendant has exhibited a propensity to commit murder. It lists 5 separate aggravating factors in this document. It also concludes by reserving the right to withdraw its intent to seek the death penalty if it learns more information in the future. But we know that the victims' families in this case, especially the Gonsalves family, supports this death penalty. I spoke, of course, with Steve Gonsalves recently about the possibility of the prosecutor seeking the death penalty, and this is what he told me. The death penalty, you support it, right?
We definitely do. Yep, that's part of the reason we moved to Idaho. You know, we want a community that protects the most vulnerable, and that's something that if a father can't protect them, then you hope that the society is willing to step up and do the right thing. So that's what we're looking for. The ultimate form of justice is that.
And of course, Vinny, all of this news happening today ahead of a pivotal motions hearing happening inside this courthouse tomorrow. And of course, I will be in there.
Yeah, it was, you know, the deadline, we know the clock was ticking. And then just on the eve of this huge hearing tomorrow, getting this word, has there been any reaction from anyone to this announcement yet? Or are we waiting to hear from folks, either victims, the defendant, or anyone else associated with all of this?
We could possibly hear a lot about it in the hearing tomorrow, possibly. The defense may say something as they did on the record in the last hearing. They addressed why he stood still at his arraignment because they want to contest the indictment. So they offer tidbits inside there. There is a gag order still over the matter covering the parties, the attorneys representing victims' families. But as you can imagine, victims' families who supported this and wanted this obviously agree and are pleased that the prosecution went ahead and did this. And early in that time frame, they had until August or so in which to file this notice and went ahead and did so today. Exactly.
Okay. Chanley Painter on the ground, big hearing tomorrow, and we've got a lot to cover tonight to get folks ready for that. Thanks so much, Chanley. We'll speak tomorrow night, and everyone will see you all day long here on your front row seat to justice. Okay. So some of the issues that are on the table now in this case, the defense is putting forth that, hey, well, wait a minute, there's other things that need to be considered here. They are not throwing in the towel in this case. I've said this from the beginning. They are contesting this. Now, well, the first thing you're going to try to do, right, a defense team in a case like this is, all right, we're going to try to keep this guy off of death row, right? And if they keep him off death row, they'll consider that a victory. But then the other part is they are not conceding anything here and will fight every piece of evidence and point the finger wherever they can at other potential suspects. I want you to take a look at this clip from a great show, The Interview Room, with Chris McDonough. It's on YouTube. We've had Chris on the show many, many times. He's going to be with us tonight also, so don't worry, he's going to be with us. But on one of his episodes, It was a fascinating moment, and it was early on in this case, in the investigation. Take a look.
I actually found a glove and turned it, I pointed it out to the officer who was there securing the scene, and they came and they collected it. The officer that was there, obviously they didn't know about it because he came over and photographed it, and he talked to the head evidence tech, and immediately, you know, later they'd come out and got it.
Okay, so Chris McDonough spots a glove near and around the scene of the crime where they're securing everything. You saw the crime scene tape, right? Take a look now at what the defense is saying about this. They're saying on December 17th, lab analysis, we're aware of 2 additional males' DNA within the house, okay, where the deceased were located, and another unknown male DNA on a glove found outside the residence on November 20th. Further, these 3 separate and distinct male DNA profiles were not identified through CODIS, leading to the conclusion that the profiles do not belong to the accused killer. So we've got unknown DNA that the defense is saying, hey, wait a minute, whose DNA is this on this glove, and whose DNA is within the house, right? So what does all this mean? Let's start with the glove, and let's bring in our special guest, former homicide detective, the man who found the glove, host of the Interview Room. Chris McDonough is with us. Chris, great to see you tonight. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Vinny.
First of all, your reaction. Now the defense is taking a look at this glove and saying, hey, wait a minute, give us a little more details surrounding exactly where you found it and your thoughts as a homicide investigator about that glove.
Sure, absolutely. So it was Thanksgiving Day, and I was in Idaho on another case because I work, you know, with the Cold Case Foundation, and I took the day off. My wife and I drove up to just take a look at, you know, the house, 1122 King Street. And as I was walking up the street, as we neared the residence, you could see that the scene was clearly, you know, taped off, and there were 2 trash cans near the curb line. And there were, you know, it was on the public side. I was on the public street. There were a bunch of people around as well. And I happened to, you know, notice a dark-colored, what appeared to be a glove with some snow cover on it, sitting behind the trash cans. And so there was a security officer, if you see that police car that's being shown there, and I waved to him, and, you know, the old homicide guy in me said, hey, you know, there's a glove here. And he got out of the car and he walked towards me and he said, what are you saying? And I pointed to the glove and I said, look, there's a glove down there. You guys may want to collect that. And he, you know, was basically surprised that it was sitting there. And he looked at it and said, okay, yeah, I'm going to go tell the evidence guys and we'll get it. So my wife and I started to continue to move up the hill, and I turned around and he was taking photographs of it. And then eventually, I'm assuming that the evidence folks, you know, came and got it, which it sounds like they did.
They did.
So I didn't see him actually collect it.
So first question, everyone at home right now is like, well, Chris, did you touch it? Could it be your DNA on the glove?
Yeah, no, it's not my DNA, and they're welcome to, you know, take a buccal swab to, you know, to eliminate me as possible. But, you know, the old homicide guy in me, as you know, Vinny, more than anybody, the last thing you want as a, you know, a prosecutor and or a defense attorney is a surprise, right? And the fact that it was sitting there, to me, that was a surprise because it was Thanksgiving Day. And, you know, this glove's sitting there. Now, if it belongs to an investigator, if it belongs to the public, or if it belongs to the suspect, I have no idea. But, you know, I certainly saw it, and I certainly pointed it out, and they recovered it.
Well, it's now, you know, I look at things as a prosecutor, right? At trial, the defense could try to make this out to be like the smoking gun in the case for them, that, hey, whose glove is it? We don't know. But I guess something that they could do is get the DNA of every investigator who was there. And then there were tons of media there as well, right? Where you found is kind of on the line of where the tape is, right? Because we keep looking at this video, but so a member of the public or any of the many members of the media that may have been there could have dropped that glove. So if anyone from the media dropped that glove, they need to call investigators and give them your DNA so it doesn't become reasonable doubt in the case, if in fact that's how it got there.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, if you look at the early photographs of some of the media reports of that trash can area, you can see the glove. And it's before the snow had covered it. It's sitting there.
Wow.
So it was there long before I got there.
Wow. Wow. And what does your gut tell you about the DNA on the glove outside and the DNA that they're talking about from 2 unknown males inside the home?
Well, I think the DNA aspect of this is going to say that there were a lot of people in that home. And whether or not they're going to be identified is going to be, quite a hurdle. But the defense has a major problem, and that is the DNA on that snap, on that sheath, up in that upper bedroom next to that victim. That's the real elephant in the room. The other stuff, yes, exactly. There you go.
Yeah,
that's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the elephant.
I don't know how they get around that. They're going to make their arguments, and we want a vigorous defense. It's the way our system works. But it's fascinating to see how everything is developing in this case. Chris, it's The Interview Room with Chris McDonough. Great podcast on YouTube. Take a look at it, folks. He has updates on this case and all these fascinating cases from around the country. Chris, appreciate it. Great to see you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Vinny.
All right, let's bring our think tank. Joining us tonight in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. Joining us from St. Bart's, unbelievable. St. Bart's. Criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland. Everyone at home jealous right now. And in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. She's not jealous because she was on the beach with Oprah just a couple weeks ago. So, all right. So let's start with the death penalty. Anyone surprised or anyone think that at any point it could be retracted?
No, I think it can be retracted.
Okay, under what circumstances, Al, do you see prosecutors who've retained the right to retract it to suddenly no longer seek the death penalty in this case?
They reach a plea arrangement with him, and they spare the people with the trial and the expense and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It'd be foolish for them not to pull that off the table then.
As a deal, but not if he's like what he's doing, what I believe he's going to do, which is say I didn't do it.
Well, if he's going to trial, that's going to stay on the table. There's no way around that, and they'd be foolish to take it off at that point. But I do think that is a very, very good bargaining chip if you're looking from the defense side. And like you said, I mean, if you get the death penalty pulled back, that's a victory. So, I mean, down the line, it could possibly be something that would weigh in the favor of, getting into a plea arrangement.
Okay, so they're going to seek the death penalty. That's a big headline from today. Big hearing tomorrow, and on the docket, a bunch of things talking about the evidence. And I think we're getting a better idea now, Darnell, where this defense might go. What are your thoughts about the glove and the unknown DNA found by Chris McDonough?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, when I see these type of cases playing out the way they do, it makes me scratch my head because we spent so much time in law school, and you think this is going to be more complicated. Here's Chris, who looks like he's in his RV traveling through the country. He rolls up on the scene, and wow, Chris is the one who spots a glove. None of the officers, none of the detectives, but Chris does. Jumps out his RV, spots a glove. Now it's like, okay, maybe we should collect this. And then my second thought is, was it an isotona? Are we back in the OJ case? If it doesn't fit, we must acquit. Now we're all about this glove again. And so it boggles my mind that after all this complicated law school stuff, we're dealing with, if it doesn't fit, we must acquit again. So, I don't think there's, we can overlook the glove, but let's not put too much stock in the glove. All
right, Jennifer Brandt, I'm always concerned, from the evidence that I've seen, specifically this evidence of his DNA here. We'll talk about that in the next segment, but are you concerned, Jennifer Brandt, for prosecutors that jurors may think, hey, you need to find out whose glove that is. If you don't tell me whose glove that is, then I may have a reasonable doubt.
I'm not concerned, Vinny, because they have the sheath, the knife sheath, and that is really strong evidence. I mean, that was found right near the victim. That has his DNA on it. I think the rest of this is sort of a distraction. Okay, there's a glove out there, but it could have been many people that glove belonged to. There's really no connection necessarily with the murderer. And you have a sheath there, which clearly does have a connection with the murder and was right next to the victim, and that's what has his DNA. So I don't think any of this really matters. I don't think it would create reasonable doubt. And I think this is the strongest evidence, and I think the defense is doing a good job of trying to, spin this case in every direction, but bottom line is I don't know how they get around that, the DNA on the knife sheath.